So finally, Bitcoin has started moving to the downside after the short rebound which we had. But remember, the price was still showing you this structure, which is something similar to what we have seen in the past. So we are not surprised with this move up here in the market because we had this thought process live before the price actually dropped 2 days back. SI family was well aware of this situation on the micro and on the macro because things are important at this range. When you zoom in, there is a lot of volatility. When you keep that noise there, zoom out, and then look at similar noises in the market, where you have the RSI showing you the same thing, where you have the MACD showing you the same thing, and then you're looking at the price action. This is what gives you better understanding in the market. Say you look at dollar, it's slowing down, it's in a choppy move, but still in a bull flag. Now we look at crypto itself, say Ether. It's also in a bull flag, but a wider one. But the moment you actually zoom a little bit out, you are a range bound guy, you're a trend guy. What you would notice here is this. That range has been a previous support. Right now, that's turning into a resistance, which is a little bit of risk. Say, for example, last time when the price actually came higher, this turned into the support, which was good. Now what you're watching is this. This is coming back down. So what's the next level of support? So for Ether, that's going to be somewhere close to this range. So are we going to see the price dropping to this new low in the Ether? That possibility cannot be neglected, and at that time it would look more like this. Now, the price is going down, that's for sure. It's slowly trending down. But what you are watching here on the side is that the RSI is saying, I'm not dropping much lower, which actually is a good sign, which is a positive sign, because the moment you actually move into a higher time frame structure, it kind of gives you a more valid point to argue. That coming down there is going to give you opportunity. Now here we are looking at XRP. We did get a rejection at the moving average. We did get a rejection at that support resistance zone. So can we break that to the upside and continue higher? Or are we going to retest this range? Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. When we try to answer these questions in the market, we do have to look at a lot of different things for sure. When you do see these kind of stuff happening, even JP Morgan will have to agree, crypto makes more sense. Rather than holding the traditional financial assets, Bitcoin and crypto would be the better choice, because the other governments are not going to confiscate that from you. It's yours and you literally move it around the globe. You can have your wallet, you can have it with you without having this trouble. So even the Morgans will now come on to the stage of crypto. Now, I actually saw an interesting question by Ari, and I think that's really valid point. Asking like, okay, how come the total value locked on the ledger increase substantially when it's on the stable coin? Now, let me put my thought there. Remember, I had this thought process before. We've talked about this. If you want to use XRP ledger as a ledger for transaction, but you really don't want the actual volatility of this ledger as a financial institution, you don't like that. 50% drop in a quarterly report, that wouldn't look good for a particular asset. Then they don't normally get a 40-50% run to the upside too. So it's highly volatile for them. They don't want that. So they opt for a stable coin on that network to use that network for transaction. It makes more sense for them. This is what I see happening here. Now, the question here, however, is how does that actually change into the total value locked in if it's not being stored in XRP, right? So if you actually look at this, say use any smart contracts based platforms, whether it's Ether, any one you like, Cardano, Avax, whichever you like. When they actually build in a new third-party thing inside that ledger, which rotates in that mother nature of that ledger, whatever value which rotates through that is on the ledger. Yes, it's not on the native asset. In this case, XRP, it's not on the native token, but it's on the actual ledger. But that's where I think the interledger protocol and all the other things come into play, where they can actually connect all of this to use that. But the difference is, this is not a third-party thing which you're using. You're building a stable coin on XRP ledger. So the native asset still is what? XRP. Which means when you want to move that value in and around, you can use XRP, which is going to be the fastest, cheapest, and the most scalable. But when you want to store that or hold that while you wait for next transaction, you still don't want the volatility. So yes, it's on the ledger. It's not on the XRP. It's on the XRP ledger. So I think, okay, yeah, in that sense, it would be on the total value locked. Now let's actually see what the response looks like from David Shaw's actually. Let's see. And a huge shout out to Eri for asking such question, because it needs clarity for sure. Now, keeping that in mind, that question in mind, if we do look at XRP, the price action, we'll have to put this argument here. Yes, we do have the divergence, which is actually great. The price is going down, but the RSI is not. That's bullish divergence. That's on a 3-day chart. You slowly move out onto a weekly chart. You do see that this range is acting as a support resistance. Cool. But what the majority would be looking at is the daily chart. And the daily actually clearly shows you that this range of support is now acting as a resistance. So doing this kind of a choppy move is something you should not deny. That's a bigger possibility here in the market. You cannot deny that's coming. Because if Bitcoin is to come back down here, it won't be just one leg down. Remember, here we had the first leg, then you stopped there, you went back up. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So even if it's a smaller version of that, we may see something like this. Because what we have seen in the recent past in the same asset is the exact same scenario. So whether that's going to be a micro move or a macro one will purely depend on the situation. But we have seen these kind of moves. So if it's actually doing something choppy like that, it's going to be a huge opportunity zone. Remember, yesterday we talked about what? The daily candle close with the volume. And I think that's really important to look at it now. Because the arguments which we put in there is like this. On a daily, on the Bitcoin side, you had 50% of the selling volume, but you didn't get 50% of the price in selling, which showed back then in last 24 hours, before 24 hours, you had buyers holding up. But with a little bit more increase on the selling side, that erased the entire range here. That shows sellers are back. And that's one of the reasons why we have to zoom back out on a 3-day chart. The 3-day chart shows you have very little buying volume compared to the last candle, but you have already engulfed the current candle. So sellers are active. Now you go on the weekly chart. You're like, okay, we have a lot of sellers, but they are failing to push the price down. And this is where it becomes super optimistic. Yes, you may go down, but then it can become another long wick. And when you do have a wick to the upside like this particular candle, even if it actually comes back down to the range of 62 range and have that long wick before we close that weekly candle, it's bullish. That's an inverted hammer. Inverted hammer after a few red candles or bearish candles usually signals you upside is starting. What do I mean? In the recent past, we have seen similar candle. This is that guy. Once you drop substantially and you form this candle, usually you may have a wick for sure, but then your direction is this side. Reversal signals, right? There are fake outs at some time. Say here you got these candles showing you it's going to go down, but you had first leg up before you came back down. So that downside was not big, even though you got negative signal. Why? Because the trend is to the upside, was just showing you a signal. Similar scenario, you look at this doji, it showed you something. Similar scenario, you had another doji, it showed you something. So the market is trying to give you all that narrative, and that's exactly why when we actually go on to the XRP to Bitcoin on the macro, I think that matters a hell lot more. Historically, if you do look at this, the only argument which you would make here is saying, guys, watch. Every 1,000 days, 1,500 days, this asset has came down to this level of support. But once it reached there, it always had a big bounce. Whether it's July 2014, whether it's March 2017 or 2021, we saw the price bouncing back up from that trend line support. What do you make of that right now? We are at that trend line support after 1,200 days. That's literally 4 years. So last time it was 2021 early, like December 2020, Jan 2021 range. Now here we are 2024 April. So it's showing you the price is interested in doing something. What is that? Historically speaking, a bounce off from there is what we want to see. Last time you didn't actually get a big choppy momentum, which is the 1, 2, 3. Rather, you got an ABC, which showed, yeah, that's over, you're going to go back down. Now, can we turn that into something bigger? Can we turn that into the 1, the 2, the 3? That's where interesting things happen. That's where price explosion in the dollar terms come into the picture. So let's zoom in. This is a weekly, it's still active. You have decent buying volume and a little bit of buying strength. You have a bit of buying volume and a bit of buying movement. So you zoom in. You're like, we may need this to come back down to test this range and then bounce off. That's positive. So now you look at it on the Ether side of things. You're looking at the Ether. If you want to put in Ether to Bitcoin, that's still okay because it actually gives you the narrative of what Ether is doing against Bitcoin. Similar stuff. You go back to 2021, you had a wick below this range. Couple of times, you bounce back. You look at this here in June 2022, you bounce back. You look at here, Jan 2024, it bounced back. Right now, you're back there at the same range. Price is moving down when the RSI is still going up. Divergence. So you have all these signals in the market. Say, for example, you're actually taking, say, total 2, and you can actually look at the total 2 in the entire market scenario and look at it on a monthly. What you see there is the last monthly candle when it closed, there was enormous amount of buying volume in the market. Say you want to get a better idea. You zoom in. You're looking at the current weeks. And you're like, okay, the last week, this week, the candle which has closed, obviously, shows you a lot of doji movements, right? So there was a lot of buying power, but that literally failed to push it up, but that held the bottom, which was a good thing. Otherwise, it would have dropped further. Now it is showing you an inverted hammer scenario after you dropped from this level, which again is positive. Remember, last time you had 2 of these negative candles and then you formed this, which is the inverted hammer. The price from next week went up, and that was continuously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of consistent upside. So how are we going to do this from the next week? Because if we do get a candle close like this, it increases the optimism of such a move here in the market. And we're already close to the all-time highs. Just one leg to the upside brings the total altcoin market into the all-time highs range. That's where you look for opportunities. Because if you do see something is trending higher, whether it's an asset you love, whether it's your asset you're not that close to, but here we are involved in this market as investors. So when you do see opportunities and a bounce off, you will actually look at that and say, well, that's an accumulation, a breakout, a retest, and a bounce. I'm going to join that party, right? So you'll have to look for what the market loves and what the market is trying to push to the upside. So you'll see a lot of different assets which has been there, like the blue chips, showing you signals which you should not ignore. Some of them had negative divergence initially, but now they're turning into the bullish divergence, which looks positive. They had the range of accumulation. Now they're showing you the re-accumulation. If the history repeats, it would look somewhat like this. We've seen these kind of movements before. And put that into the perspective, last time when this thing started moving, again, XRP didn't move. Yeah, I mean, this local top, when it reached there, that's where the guy XRP moved. So that's why I always highlight, yes, XRP is the biggest portion of my portfolio, but I have other assets too. Trade bag and spot bag. Levered bag and spot bag. Keep it that way. So you can literally use these upside which happens in the market for your benefit. Whether it's for your liquidity purpose, whether it's to buy more spot asset, it's all coming in here. One of the benefits which we have right now in the market with all these choppiness which Bitcoin is doing is that we are going to get more. The way the market is performing now is showing you a reaccumulation mode and most likely another choppy leg to this range, which would attract more buyers. With what you're watching like this would concern not only the JP Morgan guys, the JP Morgan investors. They would think, whoa, those Bitcoin conspiracy guys, they were right. Those crypto guys, they were right. You need such an asset class in current economical geopolitical scenario. You don't trust one to another government, right? In that sense, yeah, this is a re-accumulation done by someone, and when the price comes to these levels, they are going to buy huge, and we'll see that in the volume as well. What do I mean? You're looking for local bottoms and the volume. If you see certain spike in buying volume, yeah, someone is scooping that up. Huge downside, and suddenly one buying day erased all of those. Literally, those units sold by the weak hands were taken over by the big hands. Now, on a monthly, you're still in the overbought territory. On the weekly is where you look at this. You want to see a negative divergence formation. It's still showing you something good is coming. If that's true, next 4-5 weeks is going to be the first leg like this. Last time it took 1, 2, third week we got momentum. Fourth week we had momentum. So watch for something like that. And guys, if you stayed here till this point and you haven't smashed the like button, I would request consider doing that. If you received value for your time and you understood something, smash that for me. And if you would like to get these kind of warnings before the market starts dropping on you, join the SF family with 1,000+ members are readily taking benefit of what I'm posting on a regular basis. We go through the charts every single day, giving you guys the real idea. See, this was clearly highlighting the price should go down. That was close to 66,400. Now we actually came down, touched like 63,500. So $3,000 drop in Bitcoin came after this post. So if you'd like to take benefit of these in the market, look at the link in the description below on YouTube or in the bio and Twitter. So guys, I'll meet you on the next video. Bye for now.